Taoiseach, under the programme for government and Ireland's projected figures, we are looking at planting 450,000 hectares of forestry between now and 2050. That's about 1.1 million acres. Ironically enough, in 2023, with all the debacle that has gone on about forestry over the last number of years, a farmer, if they want to apply to plant trees at the moment, it is not possible because the department will tell you they're waiting on the state aid. But along with that, Taoiseach, and it seems to be the week of leaked documents, in Europe, a leaked document from DG Agri, which had on its cover to the top civil servants not to carry it in public, use encrypted software and basically shred it, if at all possible, or if anyone was seeing it. And under this document, in DG Agri, basically the Commissioner has stated that there is going to be major problems under the proposed re-wetting or the nature restoration project that is being proposed by Europe. DG Agri has stated there will be major problems under CAP, there will be major problems for farmers, and there will be major problems for the farm to fork strategy. But ironically enough, a few months ago when I brought this up in here and talked about it, something like 800,000 acres that's being proposed in Ireland. It is also proposed under this nature restoration law that 70% of drained peatlands, and when I talk about drained peatlands, I talk about the likes of Listowel, where the black and white cows are up and down the field. I talk about a lot of the west of Ireland, where farmers have sheep and suckler cows to basically earn a living in part of their farm. And if this comes to pass, Taoiseach, it will decimate a certain part of the country. If you add the total what I've talked about there, it's at least 2 million acres. Those 2 million acres will go from the top of Donegal down to the bottom of Kerry or out to part of West Cork. It will come out to the Midlands. But it definitely won't touch the Golden Vale because you don't have peatlands there. It definitely won't touch basically the Hill of Tara, or it won't touch good land in Kildare or a lot of parts of the country. But it will affect small family farms in the areas that I've mentioned already. Is it not worrying to you that a commissioner has a secret document out there internally in the EU that states very clearly that there's major problems under CAP, major problems for farmers, politically a hot potato, and still you, as leader of the country and your government, is now supporting this document or the proposal on the nature re-wetting law? Can you or will your government put a halt to what's going on at the moment for the sake of the small family farms in the areas that I've outlined already?
Thanks very much, Deputy, for raising the issue of the EU nature restoration law. First of all, I want to say that we support the European Green Deal and we support in principle the proposed EU regulation on nature restoration law. It was published by the Commission in June 2022 and aims to restore nature and biodiversity. However, the proposed regulation in its current form is very ambitious and does go too far. And we have real concerns about the real challenges that would be posed by its impacts, its timing, its equity considerations, and indeed deliverability. Each relevant department in government has been asked to undertake as a priority an analysis of the likely sectoral impacts in order to inform a coherent national impact assessment, including the economic cost arising, the impact on farmers and farm families and rural communities, particularly along the western seaboard. Formal negotiations on the regulation began under the Czech presidency and are now continuing under the Swedish presidency. The expectation is that the regulation will be ratified by the European Parliament and Council in the middle of this year. Under current proposals, the regulation, once ratified, will come into force, and Member States, including Ireland, would have 2 years to prepare a national restoration plan. So we'd have to have that plan prepared by 2026. In relation to any secret documents, Deputy, I haven't seen them and I'm not aware of them, and not possible for me to comment on them.
You said first of all that you support it, and then you said you have grave concerns. If you have grave concerns, how's that every other country, and the Netherlands is one of them, Norway, Sweden, have written back already, and indeed most of the EU countries, or most of the countries in the EU, have written back opposing this in its present form. Why haven't we written back and outlined basically the things in it that you are concerned about? And we had DG Environment in our Ag Committee last week. They are not concerned about you doing an analysis in Ireland. They made it very clear to us at the committee that they had done an overall look at it, and when we asked them the consequences that it would have for this in Ireland, he said we look at it on an overall basis. We don't look at it country by country. We are unique in this, Taoiseach, and I would ask you to put a halt to what's going on at the moment. Do not ratify this, or you will be the cause, and your government, of small family farms in the west of Ireland, in the northwest, in the southwest, being driven out of business on account of this. There is time for you to act, and I would ask you to act.
Thanks, Deputy. As I said earlier, we support the European Green Deal, and we do support the EU nature restoration law in principle. I think all of us want to see nature restored, and we want to see an end to biodiversity loss and a restoration of biodiversity across our country. But there are aspects of this that are very ambitious and go too far, in my view. And we are carrying out a national impact assessment. So we're developing a position on the EU nature restoration law. It's being led by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, but is across government. An interdepartmental group has been established, as is a senior officials group, and there will be a memo to Cabinet very soon setting out the government's position on it. And of course, we're going to have regard to the impact on farmers, farm families and rural communities, particularly down the western seaboard. And I appreciate the concerns that you've raised in that regard.